Before we get started with this video, I want to let you guys know about my Discord server. We're talking college basketball live games, just college basketball in general, bracketology, Q&As, all that stuff. Hit the link in the description to join the Super Celtic 24 Discord server. About to create this bracketology video. Woo! And I am so freaking excited for it. Let's go ahead and kick this thing off. Sup guys, it's Alex here, and we have finally made it to March. It is the March 1st bracketology. March Madness is starting, and I mean, really, if you want to say it, March Madness already started this past weekend. I mean, what a crazy weekend of college basketball. A historical weekend of college basketball. All six of the top six teams lost this weekend. I want to say all of them were on the road too. I may be a little bit wrong on that, but I think it's all of them lost on the road. And 7 of the top 9, because you also got to throw in Texas Tech in there. What a crazy weekend. Gonzaga lost on the road to St. Mary's. Arizona, I think, had the worst loss out of anybody. They lost to Colorado on the road by double digits. Then Auburn lost to Tennessee. Purdue lost to Michigan State. Kentucky, as the 6, lost to Arkansas, and then who was the 5? I don't even remember who the 5 was off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it was maybe Kansas. I don't know. I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember. But either way, we had the top 6 teams all lose this weekend. It was just absolutely crazy. I want to say it was Kansas because I think they lost to Baylor. But either way, before we kind of get into the ramifications of this and taking a look at the bracket watch and bubble watch, whatever you want to call it, I want to mention that I have the Ncaa tournament ticket giveaway going on. If we hit 7,777 subscribers by Selection Sunday, I will be giving away a first round Ncaa tournament ticket. All you got to do is hit that subscribe button, turn post notifications on, take a screenshot, send that over to @AlexPrice24 on Instagram, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. More details on that are in the description below, so make sure you go ahead and enter that. We're still a little bit of ways from it, but I think we can get there now that March is starting to come around and people are starting to pay more attention to college basketball. But taking a look here at the bracket watch, since pretty much every top team lost this weekend, not a whole lot has changed on the top lines. Top overall seed is Gonzaga. First team out right now is Loyola Chicago. They have been losing a lot recently. If you haven't checked out my Missouri Valley Conference tournament predictions, I posted that video yesterday. You might want to go check that out, speaking of Loyola Chicago. But I think in order to make the tournament, they're going to have to win their conference tournament. I don't think there's anybody in there that they can beat that'll kind of lock them into the field, especially once you got to factor in bid thieves once the conference tournament time ends up coming around. And then the last team in is Rutgers. After that crazy 4-game stretch where they knocked off 4 really good opponents in a row, I think they've lost their last 3 games, I want to say. So now they are kind of falling back to earth a little bit. They are now down to the last team in. Taking a look at the bubble, last 4 byes are Creighton, San Francisco, Wake Forest, and Michigan. Last 4 in are Memphis, San Diego State, who got a big win against Wyoming last night, Indiana, and Rutgers. So a lot of Big Ten representation there in those on the good side of the bubble. First 4 out were Loyola Chicago, BYU, Oregon, and SMU. And then the next 4 out are Virginia Tech, Florida, St. Bonaventure, and Dayton. So taking a look here at the movement in the bracket, up first in the West Regional, we have Xavier down to a 9. They are starting to get a little bit testy about the tournament. They have been, I think they've lost, I want to say, 4 or 5 out of their last 7 or 8 games, something like that. I have not been a fan of them all season, as you've seen from my bracketologies, and I know a couple of Xavier fans, whenever they were projected to be like 3 or 4 seed, were getting mad at me for that, but look where they're at now. And then taking a look down, we have Michigan down to an 11 after losing out on a good chance for a good quality win against Illinois last night. We have New Mexico State down to a 14, San Francisco up to a 10, Notre Dame up to an 8. Then we have San Diego State new to the field as the 12 playing game there, and then Rutgers down to the 12, UConn up to a 4, St. Mary's up to a 6. And then we have Indiana up to an 11 in the playing game. Princeton new to the field, if you want to say that as like a 14 seed. Iowa down to a 7. Davidson up to a 10. Then taking a look over there at the Midwest Regional. Boise State down to an 8. TCU up to a 9. Creighton down to an 11. Then we have North Carolina up to a 10. They had a crazy game against Syracuse last night in that overtime game. Then taking a look at the East Regional. Arkansas up to a 5 now. Arkansas, I want to say they won, is it 13 out of their last 14? 12 out of their last 13? Something crazy like that. They are on an absolute tear. Just beat Kentucky at home. They've beaten Auburn, Tennessee, and Kentucky now at home in that stretch. So those are great quality wins for Arkansas there. And we have Ohio State down to a 6, Wake Forest down to an 11, Miami down to a 10, and then Auburn down to a 2. So then, as you guys know, every time that there's a bracketology that I do, I create the Excel bracket here. I go to vertex42.com, download their Excel bracket, and then fill in the teams all myself. There's not really anywhere that I can post it. So I just recreate it every time that it goes on and then make this video about it. I set up all the teams there and give my predictions for the NCAA tournament if it were to happen based off of this bracketology. And so yeah, let's go ahead and kick this thing off with the top left regional over here. We'll go with Gonzaga, obviously beating the winner of Alcorn and New Orleans. And then we'll go with Colorado State here, pulling off the 8-9 victory over Xavier. And then I'm going to go with my first upset prediction here at the beginning of this tournament bracket predictions video. We are going to have 12 seed South Dakota State upsetting Houston there. South Dakota State has historically been one of those good 12 seeds that can pull off an upset here or there. Houston, I just really don't believe in them. They've been struggling with a lot of injuries this year, so it's not really a knock on that team. I just feel like they're ripe for an upset. Then speaking of ripe for an upset, this is going to depend on the health of UCLA. Juzang's been hurt over the last little bit of time, and I think somebody else too. I think Jamie Jaquez has been hurt a little bit too. If either one of those were to miss this game, I may pick Toledo to win, but as of right now, I do have to go with UCLA. But I will go with another upset pick here with Michigan over LSU. I think this is a perfect game, the perfect game for an 11-6 upset with Michigan over LSU. Texas Tech will beat New Mexico State. Marquette will beat San Francisco, and then we're going to go with Purdue here, moving on past Montana State. For a spot in the Sweet 16, Gonzaga will advance on here past Colorado State. UCLA will beat South Dakota State. Texas Tech, I think, will be able to handle Michigan, and then Purdue will beat Marquette. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, Gonzaga versus UCLA, a rematch of that crazy game last year in the Final Four, one of the best games of all time, probably the best game since that 1992 Duke-Kentucky game. But for a spot in the Elite Eight, I am going to go with Gonzaga moving on. But then I am going to go with Texas Tech here, pulling off the 3-2, slight upset there over Purdue. I think Texas Tech has a real strong chance of making the Final Four. And you know what I'm going to do? I am going to pick Texas Tech to advance to the Final Four out of this region. They didn't lose at home because they had their senior night last night. Texas Tech and Gonzaga, I think that would be a fantastic matchup there. Gonzaga did just lose to St. Mary's. If Texas Tech can hold down Drew Timme, Chet Holmgren has been kind of hit or miss in the big games, especially against like Texas and Duke. We'll see if he's able to perform here against Texas Tech. But I think that if they can shut him down, I think they'll get the win there. So I have Texas Tech advancing on to the Final Four. Down here in the bottom left regional, Kansas will beat Cleveland State. Then we're going to go with Wyoming pulling off the 9-8 upset over Seton Hall. Then we're going to go with Kansas beating North Texas. Illinois, I think, will be able to beat Northern Iowa. Then I think that Ohio State will beat Wake Forest. So that's one of those upset alert games, but I don't think Wake Forest is good enough to beat Ohio State. Villanova will beat Towson. Michigan State, I think, can beat Miami. And then Auburn will beat Colgate. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Kansas advancing on past Wyoming. Arkansas beating Illinois in a 5-4. I hate that for Illinois. I really like Illinois this year. I mean, a couple bracketologies ago, I even had them in the Final Four. I think that they're an Elite Eight potential team, but to get paired up with Arkansas, man, in a 5-4, I feel real bad for them. And then we're going to have Villanova advancing on past Ohio State, and then Auburn advancing past Michigan State. But then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm going with one of the hottest teams in college basketball right now. I am going to go with the Razorbacks of Arkansas. They've beaten Auburn, they've beaten Kentucky, they've beaten Tennessee. Who's to say they can't beat Kansas? I think Arkansas will beat Kansas there. I got Arkansas moving forward. And they will face the winner of Villanova and Auburn, which I do think will be Auburn. No, Auburn. They are 3-3 in their last 6 games. I do got to throw that out there. Something to consider. So then we have Arkansas and Auburn for a spot in the Final Four. Man, that one's tough to call because, I mean, Arkansas did just beat Auburn a couple of weeks ago. I feel like these two teams will probably get paired up in the SEC tournament. I don't want to be too recency biased, but, I mean, Arkansas, as I've been saying this whole video, winners of like 12 of their last 13, beat Auburn, beat Kentucky, beat Tennessee. In their last 6 games, Auburn 3-3, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with that. So for those reasons, I am going to pick Auburn here. Maybe I'm having too much recency bias, but I am picking the Razorbacks of Arkansas to move on here to the Final Four. So then we'll move on down here to the bottom right regional. Baylor will advance past the winner Norfolk and Bryant, obviously. Boise State will beat TCU. Texas, I think, can beat Iona, and then Providence will beat Chattanooga. Then I'm going to go with the 11 seed Creighton Blue Jays pulling off the upset over USC. I just don't believe in USC this year. Wisconsin will beat Texas State. North Carolina, Iowa State, both those teams, I think, I really want to pick both of those teams. I am, though, going to go with North Carolina. They're just a little bit more experienced, and I trust Picard a little bit more with Brady Manick as well. But then Kentucky will beat Jacksonville State. So we're going to have Baylor advancing on past Boise State to the Sweet 16, along with Providence over Texas. Then Wisconsin will beat Creighton, and Kentucky will beat North Carolina in a rematch of their regular season game this year. Then we are going to go with Baylor advancing on here to the Elite Eight over Providence as well. And then we're also going to go with Kentucky advancing on past Wisconsin, though that's a rematch of Wisconsin ending Kentucky's run in 2015 as an undefeated team. And I mean, Wisconsin, I don't want to sell them short here and don't want to just mention them a couple times and that be it. Wisconsin, winners of 4 in a row, probably going to be the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're a really good team this year, but paired up against Kentucky, I don't think it's going to happen. But then we have Baylor versus Kentucky. I do think that Kentucky is the better team if fully healthy. Severe Wheeler and Ty Washington didn't just make it back on the floor, though they had to come off the bench to kind of get geared back up. I do think Kentucky would end up winning that game. So then our last region over here, Arizona will beat Long Beach State. Then we're going to go with Murray State pulling off the 9-8 upset over Notre Dame. Then Rutgers, I'm going to pick them to pull off the victory here, or the upset over Alabama. I think Rutgers and Alabama, I mean, really, both two teams are really inconsistent this year, but I do think Rutgers can make it happen. Connecticut will beat Vermont. Then we're going to go with St. Mary's beating the winner of Memphis and Indiana, which I think would be Indiana. Tennessee will beat Princeton. Then we are going to go with Iowa here over Davidson, along with Duke over Longwood. And then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we got Arizona advancing on past Murray State. Connecticut will advance past Rutgers. Then we're going to go with Tennessee here, moving on past St. Mary's. So that'd be a pretty good game to watch. And then Duke will beat Iowa. And then for a spot in the Elite Eight, we got UConn falling to Arizona there. Arizona, I know they did just lose by double digits to Colorado, but I do like this path for Arizona. It's a much better path than a lot of the others, like Arkansas over there, even Providence, even UCLA, that sort of thing. But then Duke, I do think, will be able to beat Tennessee. And then for a spot in the Final Four, I am going to go with the Blue dude. I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils advancing on to the Final Four. So before we get into our Final Four predictions, I got to give you guys my 2-word food item. You guys are watching this video pretty late, so I got to come up with a good one. What do we want to do? Let's do pizza roll. How about that? If you're watching at this point in the video, which I mean most of you guys probably are, just to see who's going to end up as a national champion, comment pizza roll in the comments below, so that way I know you're watching this video all the way through, which sets up our Final Four here. No number 1 seeds in this bracketology. I ain't going chalk, baby. So up first we have Texas Tech versus Arkansas. I am going to go with Arkansas. Maybe that's too much recency bias with that play of J.D. Note and Jalen Williams, and as they've been playing recently, it's probably a lot of recency bias, I do have to say. But I do think that they're the hottest team in college basketball right now, and they will face Kentucky, beating Duke there, which sets up an SEC final here, the rematch, Arkansas versus Kentucky on a neutral floor. If Kentucky's fully healthy, I think that Kentucky is the best team in college basketball if fully healthy. So I am going to pick them to win the national championship here. I think that if you ask a lot of college basketball experts, I think they'll agree with you. I don't think there's a consensus favorite this year, but Kentucky's definitely in that top tier. I think they'll win the national championship if they're fully healthy, and it looks like Severe Wheeler and Ty Washington are heading back that way. So there we have it. Those are my predictions for the bracketology. Let me know your own predictions in the comment section below and your thoughts about mine. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate because I'm a Kentucky fan, but for having them win the championship. But oh well. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all later.